Meanwhile, Harry and LaGuerta are up in Tampa looking through the medical files of Dr. Petrie. And as expected, Brian Moser's name popped up in the records. And since Harry found this record, he was like, ooh, I gotta get LaGuerta out of here so I can sit with this thing real quick. And he said, you know what? I could take some of that raggedy coffee they were talking about earlier. And he's lucky because she was being nice enough to go out there and get it for him, because some other women would have been like, hey, go get your own coffee, bruh. And once he opened that file, yeah, he did need to sit down because there was a lot of information in that file to process. So he had been discharged because he was no longer a threat to himself or others. So in the file, it showed that he had a violent history. He was borderline personality disorder. I mean, he had all kinds of stuff going on. And then it got a little bit juicier because it started talking about them Morgans and started tugging on their wigs. He said Brian wanted to stay with Dexter, but the Morgans would only take one of them. So he was upset about that. He said he knew about the affair with his mom, Laura, and he said that Dexter was calling him daddy. So Harry had to snatch that page up out of there with alacrity. And just when you thought it couldn't get worse,
It went from worse to worse, sir.
there was a page in that file that talked about Brian from the nurse's perspective. His nurse had multiple complaints about him being aggressive and violent toward him, and his name was Raul Martinez. And that didn't ring a bell for me at first, but then they did a flashback shot, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's the first case that Dexter ever worked on. So Harry's mind was just blown. With all the stuff he just saw, he closed that file up so fast and just put it in his bag. And then LaGuerta walks right back in, and she says, hey, what did I miss? And he said a whole lot of nothing. But I think she was suspicious of him. She already doesn't know him, so the trust has to be earned. And she was like, something don't feel right about what you just said. But my question is, what is Harry going to do with this information? Is he going to try to hide and cover up the stuff that the man's been doing? Or is he going to try to actually catch him and like change his behavior? But you got to understand that the damage has been done already. Brian is already out in the world. He already had his first taste of blood a while ago. And now he's just out on the hunt. So I wonder if Harry's going to try to protect him and rectify what he did, because a lot of that was his fault. They didn't pick safer places to hide and talk in private. He also got personally involved with his mom. And then on top of that, Brian and Dexter saw their mom get chopped up in a storage container. And you're going to tell me that he goes through that traumatic event, and then y'all do another traumatic event by taking his brother, the only other person that he knows, out of his life. That man is already going to be a nutcase. You could have helped them both, but you decided to only take one.